Hello and welcome to this tutorial video. I am Adrian from the Freakish video podcast, and today I'm going to teach you about a crochet technique called the chainless foundation row. This video will be going through the differences between the traditional chain row start and the chainless foundation row, and go into how to make a chainless foundation row using single crochet stitches, half double crochet stitches, and double crochet stitches. For reference, I am using the US terms for stitches. I'm using a USH 5mm hook and some brightly colored worsted weight acrylic yarn for this demonstration. I am also assuming that if you're watching this tutorial, you have a basic understanding of how crochet works. If you don't have a basic understanding of how crochet works, please check out my previous tutorial on the basics of crochet. So this is a little swatch using the granny stripe pattern from the Attic 24 blog, using a basic chain start. So you do your chains, turn the work, you do a row of single crochet, and then you get into your pattern. This swatch is done using a chainless foundation row, turning the work and then working in pattern for the same pattern. So just to show you the differences between these two, the chain foundation I did using the same size hook. Many patterns recommend you use a bigger size hook so that you can get more stretch. Using the same size hook, this is how much the starting edge will stretch. It is considerably less than what the finishing edge will stretch. This chainless foundation row is considerably stretchier. The bottom row stretches very similarly to the finishing row. You can get almost, say, 3/4 inch, maybe a full inch more stretch on a chainless foundation row. So there are definitely advantages to learning this technique. Now for a chained foundation row, you have to count out your number of chains and then turn and work into them. The chainless foundation row uses the stitch and a chain, but you do them kind of at the same time. You can see there is an edge here created by a chain stitch, but it's where you do the chain stitch that makes it this stretchy, easy to work with starting row, especially if you're doing something like the granny striped blanket, which could be considerable in length. This might not be worth it to learn for a small piece, but definitely if you are going to be working on a crochet blanket, this is preferable in my opinion. So I'm going to show you how to make a chainless foundation row using single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. They all start about the same way. You're going to make your slip stitch like any other crochet work, and you're going to start with a very small chain. I'm going to start with a single crochet, so I'm going to do 2 chain stitches. 1, 2. This chain stitch here is technically going to be the start, or going to be the last stitch of the row above it. So I would mark it just so you don't lose it. So that's all you need to do to start a single crochet chainless foundation row. If you're going to be starting with a double crochet chainless foundation row, I would add another chain. So you have 3 chains. I use the 2 chains on my half double crochet blanket, and I don't see a problem with it because the half double is not that much taller than a single crochet. So you've got your 2 chains. You're going to start creating a single crochet stitch in this first chain. Now I like to use the loop on the back because it's easy to see. So you're gonna put your hook under, yarn over, pull it through. But don't finish the stitch. You've got 2 working loops. We're going to create a chain stitch in the middle of this stitch. We're going to yarn over, pull it through once, yarn over, pull through both loops. So now we have a chain stitch on the bottom of a single crochet stitch. We've got 1 working loop. We're going to put our crochet hook through that previous chain stitch. Grab 2 legs. It can be kind of hard to see. With this first stitch, it will become easier to see as you go. So I've got 2 legs here from the bottom of the stitch we just created. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. Before we finish that stitch, we're going to do a chain. Then we're going to finish the stitch. Yarn over, pull through both loops. We'll do 1 more real quick. 1 working loop. Find the 2 legs on the bottom. Go under them. Yarn over. Pull through. Do a chain. And then finish the stitch. Nice little stretchy start to your project. Now because of this, because you're creating the first row as you go, if you're doing something like a blanket where you don't necessarily want to count how many stitches, because it could be 300 stitches, 360 stitches, 500 stitches, depending on the blanket that you're doing, you can keep going like this until you like the length of your starting row. If you're doing something in a pattern, like the granny stripe crochet blanket, you need to do a tiny smidge of math to know how many clusters to do. For example, the granny stripe blanket has you do multiples of 3 plus 2. The 2 chain stitches at the very end create your first stitch in the next row. So if we're going to be doing a granny stripe blanket with this, we need to create these single crochets in multiples of 3. And then you have the 1 stitch on the end to do your last work in. So you can do a whole bunch of these and then just count them out in 3s. Ignore this stitch because you're going to need that 1. And just count these in multiples of 3. So we'll do a couple more of these. You can see how I do them in real time. There you have a bunch of stitches. It will curl a little bit when you start with. Just tug it out and it'll flatten. So we'll go over it again one more time, slow. One working loop under the previous bottom 2 legs. Yarn over, pull through, do a chain, then yarn over and pull through. And that's for a single crochet chainless foundation. For a half double crochet chainless foundation, you would start it the same way, 2 chains, and then you'd form your stitch. You'd start to form it just like a regular half double crochet. 1 working loop, yarn over, then you'd go into that bottom chain under the 2 legs, or the single loop if you're starting over here. Yarn over once, pull it through. 3 working loops. You're going to do a chain on the bottom loop, then a yarn over and finish your half double crochet stitch. 1 working loop, yarn over, hook into the bottom chain of the previous row, yarn over, pull through, do a chain on that first loop, then yarn over and pull it through. We'll do a few more of these. You can see here's the chain. This is the top of the stitch here, but you're kind of working them upside down. So when you're done, it will look like this. You've got your chains on the bottom, you got the top of your stitches up here. Here are your singles, and here are your half doubles, which are a little bit taller. And the principle will work for any crochet stitch. We'll do double. 1 working loop, yarn over, hook under the chain from the previous stitch, under both legs, yarn over, pull it through, 3 working loops, a chain on the first loop, then you finish the stitch as normal. 1 working loop, yarn over, into the 2 legs from the chain of the previous row, or the previous stitch, yarn over, pull through. You're going to do a chain on that first stitch and finish the stitch as normal. 1 working loop, 1 yarn over, through the 2 legs of the chain on the previous stitch, yarn over, pull it through, 3 working loops, do a chain on that first loop, and then finish the stitch as normal. there you have your chainless foundation row. In single crochet, in half double crochet, in double crochet. From here, you would turn your work and work as normal in pattern. This just gives you a nice, stretchy start to your project, and it means you don't have to count out 1,075 chain stitches and then try to do your stitch into each chain stitch. If you have any questions about this technique, please leave it down below. Don't forget to subscribe or thumbs up or favorite this video if you found it to be helpful. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy creating crochet projects with a chainless foundation row.